There we go. Okay, Felicia, so I'll hand it off to you to take us through the session.
Okay, welcome to our first session here. What I want to do here today is level set kind of some of the expectations for submitting components to the design system, some tools, tricks, and suggestions, and then we'll walk through creating a component together. We can have some questions and answer session, and if needed, we're going to stick to a hard 30-minute deadline. We're not going to go over that. If we do need more time, we can schedule more time. This is just kind of like the intro to that. And so I guess start if there's any questions before I get into it. This would be a good time to ask any in the beginning.
All good for now.
Yeah.
Okay. So this will live if you want to reference it in the future. It will live within our next gen web design system folder. This is where it will live after today. Right now, for this, it will be put there after this session. So what I have here is just an example of what you might start thinking about for when you're designing one. And this is a little bit more advanced, so we'll get to it next. Last, but it gives you an idea of some of the things to consider. The first one and the priority is maintaining that 8-point grid, and then creating, a naming approach that's understandable for everyone involved, including that may include other partners that are not designers, like product owners and developers, because they will also be in this file. The min and max widths are declared when you're doing responsive or adaptive, and other things like that. This is an example of the widgets, which is a more advanced component, but this gives you an idea of how you might be starting to break it down based on some of the requirements that you get from your product owners for what you need to design and all the considerations. I've also created a component checklist that you can use, and this is also available already in the design system resource guide for all the components, and I can show you that. But here we have, it's the same thing, kind of like a general, like what the naming conventions, your layering, naming your layers, the variants, and kind of like thinking all of that through, what your default component will be, what the properties of that component are, the variants of that, and then some other questions, like does it use the right color tokens, and is it using a color token rather than just like selecting a color. We want to make sure that we're using the color tokens and we're using the colors that are in the design system so that when and if there is an update and it's componentized, it will not need to like be a lot of manual labor to go in and redo any of the older design files. When there's an update, it will be a quick and automatic change. Before we get into anything, moving on, is there any questions now?
Oh,
Okay, pretty straightforward.
straightforward.
All right, so I mentioned that this is in the library. So here under the checklist, I have some that I've started that are not necessarily completed yet because they do have that work in progress stamp on them. But I'm going to be creating a checklist in the checklist area for developers and making sure, making sure that your component design is also accessible. So there will be a checklist for both for the developers and for the designers. That's why there are two, because developers and designers may have different roles and responsibilities that they have to do when they're doing their designs or their code for accessibility. But in the end, it all needs to be AA compliant. And there are areas within this system that helps you with that, with the accessibility guidelines. Um, and there's links and resources here. And when there's questions and answers that come up, I add them here so everyone can like learn from them. And if somebody asks me the same question, I can just point them here. So that's where that lives. And we're going back to the reusable components part of this session. And I'm going to, and I just showed you where the actual checklists live in the design system source library. And now I'm going to talk about an example of a component that was built recently. And what I have here is, as I have a quick like about session, this is the last time I updated it. This is the first time I created it. It has these new icons in it. That close button is also a new icon. And a little bit of information, see documentation about the specifics, but just basically 2 sentences. This is for any designer that's coming in and needing to use this. Basically don't change the design, and the copy should be brief, direct, and informational. 1 to 2 sentences is suggested, no more than that. And then a breakdown of what the severity is of these. And then these are the actual components. Every component is in purple. A component that has this, what we call this, dash line, or this means that it's the master component. And these components here, you can see, and if you look at this panel over here, the parent component is the notification bar. The current variations, I have alert type informational, succession, caution, 2.0, warning yellow, and the danger. So that's why there are 5 colors, because there is the 2.0 alert color and the caution color that is being used in 3.0. So that's why they have the same icon but different colors. And then with these icons, so these notifications components, again, there's 5, but they can make one component actually can create 7 different designs very, very quickly within the component through the panel, the component panel here, based on how the component is built. So as you saw, the alert type is informational. If I change it to succession, it's going to turn to green. And I can show that icon or remove it. So you can use this in other ways. Maybe there is no requirement for an icon. Maybe you just need to like have a quick informational notification that needs to come up. One example I would imagine would be when the CrowdStrike issue happened, AssetMark had to give information saying like, look, this is out of our control. But we're working on it, and as soon as the fix is in, we'll fix this and you'll be able to get back to your normal experience working with our application. So that's an example of when you might need to use some of these. And you can also type and it will change. And I didn't look at that, but right within the component. But what I want you to ask yourself is, do you need to build this in every one of your components or not? And you may not need to, because this is a text-based component. The object of this component is to change the text. So therefore, the text should be componentized and being able to be use within the component. So we have a bunch of nested components within the component. We have, this icon is a component. The notification bar itself is a component. And then we have the text that has the title component and the body component. And then we also have the close component. So another icon on this side. And on this side, you can select which icon to use, but you're only limited to the icons that are specific for this component, which are the notification icons. So that's how this is built. And then when you're documenting your icon, you're going to want to your component, you want to be able to give a little bit of a rundown of what the expectations are. So this is set with 24 margins, spacing of 8 between the icon and the title. Giving the status icon is optional. The icon varies. The text color, I think this should be changed to the actual component color. Of when I say component color, I meant the componentized color, the color token. So this, I will update that. A required message, and the variable background, and the close button is also optional. And so within this one component, all of those can be had by creating these nested components within the component. And these components are, you just grab them from the design system themselves and add them to your component. So here you can say, I have a Boolean of show status icon in the layers, in the layer panel. And in the text panel here, I have a show title, and then I have a notification title, and this is what I named this text field. And so the idea is to name everything something that makes sense. So you can see that in this component, I have an error notification text info, the title, the success, and the warning. So that's how I created this to be as responsive as it needs to be. So when I say responsive, so right now this is, as you can see, it's 1256 pixels wide, but I can move this to be, if I needed it to be mobile, here it is. I can take it to say like 240, and it's still going to make the text cascade and work. The text is not going to run off the screen. So it is available for mobile at this, but you may need to say you want to bump up the size of the text size. You can do that right here within the component that's already been built. You can select a body medium. I've added a few more sizes on Friday to the text sizes. But if you needed like a bigger text, you can do that right now. Even if the default size of the text here is not the size that you want in mobile, you can still use the design system to choose a font size that would work for you. That is available without being designed specifically for mobile. There are options within the components and the design system now. And again, to use the design system, I went to the assets, clicked on the book, and you'll see that I'm using the next gen design system component library directly into this file. And that's how come I have access to all of this right here in the components panel. Are there any questions?
No, I just have one question here on some of the components on the right-hand wall. you had kind of like a toggle switch. How do you create that?
Um, the toggle switch. Okay. Sorry,
In your
you
components, you
can
kind
still
of
see
like,
my, you can still see my screen, right?
yeah, yes.
Okay, because I just hit the wrong thing in Zoom. Okay. I was trying to turn on my camera. Um, okay, so how do I create the toggle switch? So here, so say, let's just start, um, I didn't, all right. So say I'm gonna take a frame and, uh, okay, and then I'm going to say, I want to turn something on or off. Let's just say icon and see what I get. So, let's take this icon and so we all agree that this icon is a component, right?
Right.
Um, and so when we see it in this panel here, it's a component.
Right.
Now, if I wanted to, I'm gonna say, turn this into a component, right? So now it's purple, it's a component. So I've got this component, and I've got this component inside of this component, and I want to be able to turn it on or off. So I'm going to go to my layers panel. I'm going to click and I'm going to say show replay icon is true. Create that property. Now, if I take this and make an instance of it, I am going to say, I'm going to have like show right in this component, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off.
Oh, okay, cool, thank you. If you turn it off, or if you had content on the right, will it like move over, or just turns that layer on and off?
Well, it depends on how you design it. So say we have a text box. This is some texts. We want to see about things with this. All right. So we've got this text here. Now we see it's blue, right? So it's not a component, but,
Yes.
um, but it's within a component, even though, it's not componentized. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna like, text body. So now we've got text that's editable and we've got a button that we can, an icon that we can turn on or off, but they're not necessarily connected to each other. They're all just like whatever. So say we turn on auto layout and now we can't just like move things around, right? It's
It's a
just
whole,
like, right. So say I wanted the icon to be here and the text to be here, and I wanted the space to be, again, you would pull up the grid, you would do all of that. So you take these together and then you would create another auto layout. And now they're together. Before they weren't together, right? They were completely separate. But now if I move this, then this is going to move because it has to respond. So that's when you start to get into like, okay, if I turn this, if I'm looking at this, now I can turn it off and the text will move into its space. Does that help?
yeah,
Are there any other questions?
not at the moment. Is this the kind of stuff that you'd be looking for when we're creating components? Like
Yeah, yeah, my video is weird. Yeah, um, so when, the idea is, I think Jason had a really great example when he was doing the clients component, because he thinks about every state. So I'm gonna go back to the notifications, um, area and show like, so here like I have like all the different versions, and I do have a, they the color token listed and the bin hex number. um but I started to talk about, like, I given like an example of what the anatomy is, and then the expectations of how to use it and what the rules are around using it. So when you submit it to me, I will be like looking for this and then helping improve it if it needs a little bit of help. When I say improve it, I want to, if there's something that's not on the 8-point grid or something like that, I'm going to ensure that it's on that grid so that there is no issues with um it being responsive when other designers are using the same component. The idea is that others will be using something, so it's not a one and done kind of thing when they're a component. It's something that we will most likely use. So you want to like discuss the spacing, how much spacing, if you have more than one of these components, you want to like think about like how it's going to relate within your design and within the design itself. So and so and what is it going to look like? So what's the total on-screen display? So you don't want to have it, you don't want to fill a screen with a bunch of notifications. So um so I've put like some information about that, what the expectations are. Um we don't want any more than 4. We prefer, um absolutely none more than 6, but we prefer less than 4. What that messaging should be, and the links to when you need to communicate something more than a couple sentences, then you would put a link in this to be able to to see more. So that would be an expectation. So if somebody says, you need to like add a paragraph here, you can like look, the design system says, no, this needs to be a quick message. If there's more, then we need to like maybe we have other, design solutions when there's more than that. Um, and so we can look into the design system for that. But here it's going to give you the example of by default, the user should be able to use the close. The reason why there is a close on off, there are other uses for it besides the notification, and especially in the persistent notification. And that's the example that I gave with the recent outage, in the 500 series, which means it's at the server level and it's nothing that is on the design level. I guess I moved this somehow, all of it. And then this is the notification examples in context. So I'm using that component of the header footer and showing in context how much space there is between the margins and how it's going across the screen, if or if it doesn't need to go across the screen. It is designed for that, but the expectation here, and then what it looks like on the different screen sizes. And again, there was no mobile requirement, so that's why the screen sizes are the way they are currently. And when we get the mobile header and footer component built, then it will be added to any of the components that need it. Like, so the variations and notifications here would include that mobile, once that is part of the process and completed. There is a queue of items to bring to the design system. And when we do that, so I'm going to show the left rail and show Jason's example real quick. Here we got 3 minutes left. We're staying on time. We've got, so he shows like all goals selected, 1 goal selected, no goals, and then the loading error state. And he shows it only in one screen size, which is fine. Unless there's like a big difference. So like mobile and desktop, if there's a big difference, then you would show one desktop version and one mobile version, but you don't have to show it for everyone. So in the left rail here, he's showing like the default and the smallest. So he's showing like the 1024, and then he's showing like all the different states. So, and then he's showing like what the action button will do. So he's giving an idea, and then here again, the purple, this is his master component where he's put all of these together. And then he gives examples of what these cards are. And so these cards are nested cards within the component, within the tile component. So, and his design for the cards are maybe different than the mobile design. And so in the end, we can like possibly combine them as you can either choose mobile or desktop, but at this time, this is in the design system queue to be built, and this is how Jason submitted it to be built. So he's kind of laid everything out, and that starting to, like to give you an idea of the expectations of getting this into the design system. So I will go through it and maybe like have maybe a session to like confirm that everything is expected within the design system. And then it will be published and be able to be used for everyone moving forward. And that's the goal. Any last questions or notes for like next time?
Yeah, thank you, Felicia. If you guys have topics that you'd like Felicia to address, if you could just send me an email and we can schedule follow-up sessions to dive into specific topics for you guys.
Okay, sounds good.
And you're on time. Good job, Felicia. All right, any additional follow-up questions for Felicia? I would recommend that you send them through email, and then she can address them one-off, or we can address them in our next session.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, you guys.
When is the next session?
Pardon?
When is the next session?
Depending on what topics we have. So if we have topics for the next session, then we would schedule it.
Okay.
So if you have topics, Sandeep, send them to us and we can figure out how detailed they are and then schedule our next session accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.